The Galactic Council chamber was always a place of light and power. Built in the heart of Viridian Prime, its walls shimmered with the energy of thousands of civilizations. But on this day, everything felt heavy and silent. The air was thick with tension. The leaders of the galaxy sat in their seats waiting for a voice they did not want to hear. Humanity's delegation had arrived. At the center of the Great Hall stood Earth's representative, a calm figure dressed in the simple dark uniform of the Terran Federation. Around them were towering alien figures, each representing a world that once called humanity their ally. The humans were not the strongest race in the galaxy, nor the oldest, but they were the glue that had kept the Council together. Their logic, creativity, and courage had helped end wars that seemed impossible to stop. Yet now they were leaving. When the humans spoke, their voice was steady but carried years of exhaustion. The people of Earth have reached a decision. Effective immediately, the Terran Federation will no longer be part of the Galactic Council. The room fell silent. Some delegates leaned forward, thinking they had heard wrong. Others began to murmur in disbelief. A few even laughed nervously, assuming this was some kind of bluff. But the humans' expression did not change. We stood beside this council when the Rune invasions threatened every colony. We shared our medicine, our technology, our knowledge of peace. We built trade routes that connected entire sectors. But over time, greed has replaced unity. The voices of small worlds are ignored. The powerful exploit the weak. Humanity will not stand by and be part of this any longer. No one had ever spoken to the council like that before. The silence stretched painfully long. Finally, one of the elder species, an ancient being whose kind had ruled for centuries, spoke with a low growl. You cannot simply walk away. The council was founded to maintain order. Your absence will cause chaos. The human looked directly at the creature, unafraid. Then perhaps the galaxy needs to see what happens when order depends too much on one species. Those words hit harder than any weapon. Every being in that hall felt the sting of truth. Over the years, humans had become the center of everything. Mediators of conflicts, inventors of new systems, builders of peace. Their ability to cooperate and adapt had turned chaos into structure. Without them, the council's balance would be broken. When the session ended, no one spoke to the human ambassador as they left. The heavy doors closed behind them with a quiet echo that seemed to mark the end of an era. Outside in the crystal corridors of Viridian Prime, human guards escorted their representative back to their shuttle. The stars reflected off their armor as they walked in silence. As the Terran ship lifted off, the council members gathered again in private. Panic began to spread. Some wanted to send envoys to Earth immediately, to convince them to reconsider. Others accused the humans of betrayal. The truth was, deep down, every species knew this had been coming. For years, the Council had ignored human warnings about corruption and exploitation. Resource-rich worlds were being drained. Smaller colonies taxed into poverty, and powerful races fought over influence. Humanity had tried to reform the system, but every attempt was met with resistance. Finally, the humans realized something. They were being used. Their compassion had made them targets, their generosity a weakness. Back on Earth, the news spread like wildfire. Across the cities of the Terran Federation, people watched the broadcast of their ambassador's final speech. For the first time in decades, humanity felt united under one idea. They no longer owed the galaxy anything. The mood was not angry, but calm and resolute. In orbit, Earth's massive defense platforms came online. The old fleets that once patrolled foreign sectors were recalled home. Ships that had served in peacekeeping missions returned to Sol system. Their crews greeted as heroes. Engineers worked day and night to strengthen the planetary shields. It was as if all of Earth had collectively decided to turn inward, to heal, to grow, and to remember what it meant to be human. Meanwhile, other worlds began to feel the loss immediately. Trade routes once maintained by human freighters became silent. Disputes that were once solved by Terran mediators turned into open conflict. Supply shortages began to ripple across the sectors. The Council's leadership tried to reassure everyone that things would return to normal. But deep inside, even they knew nothing would ever be the same. For centuries, humanity had been the unpredictable element that brought life to the galaxy's politics. They were strange and emotional, but their emotions gave them strength. They cared when others did not. They tried when others gave up. And now, that light was gone. On Viridian Prime, the council chamber remained quiet long after the humans' departure. The symbols of every race still hung proudly along the walls, but something felt missing. A cold emptiness settled over the hall where once there had been debate, laughter, and hope. In the following days, whispers spread across the galaxy. Some claimed the humans were bluffing, that they would return once the council begged them. Others believed Earth was planning something far greater, that they were building an empire beyond the council's reach. But on Earth itself, the people were not thinking of war or conquest. They were thinking of freedom. Human scientists and thinkers began to dream again, not about diplomacy but about discovery. They looked toward unexplored regions of the universe, beyond the borders of known space. If the galaxy could not change, then humanity would move beyond it. Still, there was sadness in their decision. Many humans had friends among alien species. There were memories of alliances forged in the fires of battle, of shared victories and quiet moments of peace. But those memories were fading now, replaced by a simple truth. The galaxy no longer felt like home. One evening, as the last human ambassador watched the stars from the observation deck of their ship, they spoke softly to no one in particular. "We tried to build something better, but you can't fix what doesn't want to change." Their ship turned toward Earth, engines glowing softly in the dark. Behind them, the council world faded from view, a shining sphere of light slowly swallowed by the endless black. And in that silence, a chapter of galactic history quietly ended. The humans had walked away not out of anger, but out of understanding. They had learned that sometimes, to save yourself, you must let go of the things you cannot heal. What the council did not yet realize was that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had lost more than an ally. It had lost its conscience. And the stars, for the first time in centuries, felt colder. After Earth's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, silence filled the universe in a way no one had ever felt before. The day after the announcement, news channels across countless worlds repeated the same words: "The humans are gone." It didn't feel real at first. The council members assumed that it was temporary, that Earth would return after a few months of negotiations. But deep inside, everyone knew humanity didn't bluff. When they said something, they meant it. In the weeks that followed, the cracks began to show. At first, they were small: trade delays, communication breakdowns, minor border disputes. But slowly they grew into something larger. The council had always relied on human-built systems, navigation grids, communication relays, and peacekeeping fleets. Now those systems were being shut down one by one. Entire sectors began to flicker offline, and travel between worlds became slower and riskier. Without human patrol ships keeping the peace, pirates returned to the void. They raided small freighters and remote colonies that no longer had protection. The council tried to send their own fleets to take over the routes humans once secured, but it wasn't the same. Human fleets had something no other species had: discipline, coordination, and heart. They didn't fight for glory or resources. They fought to protect. And that spirit couldn't be copied. The council leaders met again in their grand chamber, arguing day and night. Some wanted to beg Earth to return, while others claimed humanity had betrayed them. But their words solved nothing. For every decision they made, another crisis appeared. Trade agreements broke down, food shortages spread, and small nations that had once depended on human aid now found themselves alone. Far away on Earth, things looked very different. The Sol system was calm and quiet. The stars around it shimmered under a network of defense satellites, glowing faintly like fireflies in the dark. Humanity was focused on itself now. Factories that once built weapons for other worlds were repurposed to create machines for exploration and construction. Earth cities were alive again, filled with the hum of progress and the sound of unity. The Terran Federation Council met regularly, but unlike the old Galactic Council, their discussions were peaceful and organized. Every representative had a voice, from Mars to the moons of Jupiter. They all agreed on one thing: never again would Earth's fate depend on alien politics. The wounds of betrayal had taught them that trust must be earned, not given. While the galaxy outside fought over control, humanity quietly built its strength. They developed new technologies, faster ships, and stronger energy shields. Scientists worked around the clock, designing new propulsion systems that could reach beyond the galaxy's edge. There was no arrogance in their work, just determination. Humanity had no desire to rule. They only wanted to ensure they would never again be at anyone's mercy. Back in council space, the effects of humanity's absence became impossible to ignore. The economic flow that kept the galaxy stable began to collapse. Humans had once been the middle link between hundreds of species. managing trade fairly, making sure no civilization dominated another. Without them, greed took over. Wealthier species started raising prices on essential goods, while weaker planets struggled to survive. Fights broke out on trading stations. Whole fleets were lost to petty rivalries. The worst part was that many didn't understand how much they needed humanity until it was too late. Human engineers had maintained many of the galaxy's most complex systems: power grids, stargates, and relay networks. Without their guidance, systems began to malfunction. When they did, no one knew how to repair them. The once thriving network that connected thousands of worlds slowly dimmed. Ordinary citizens across the galaxy began whispering among themselves. Some said the humans were cruel for leaving, while others claimed they were right to walk away. There were even small movements of alien citizens who started to follow human philosophies, believing in equality, freedom, and self-reliance. They looked to Earth as an example of what unity could achieve. On Earth, people were aware of the chaos unfolding beyond their borders, but they didn't celebrate it. The human media discussed it in calm tones. "The galaxy is learning its lesson," one commentator said during a broadcast. "We tried to build peace. We offered our knowledge. But they wanted control. Now they will see what happens when cooperation disappears." Life on Earth began to change in quiet but powerful ways. With no wars to fight and no council meetings to attend, humanity rediscovered its creativity. Artists painted visions of future starscapes. Writers imagined new worlds. Scientists designed projects that stretched the limits of imagination. There was a feeling of rebirth, a calm after centuries of constant diplomacy and sacrifice. Still, not everyone was at peace. Many veterans who had served in the council fleets couldn't forget the worlds they once protected. They watched the news with heavy hearts, seeing reports of suffering and conflict. Some wanted to return, to help the innocent people caught in the chaos. But orders from the Terran Federation were clear: no interference. Humanity had done enough. It was time for others to take responsibility. Even then, quiet humanitarian missions began to appear in secret. Small human ships without official markings started to deliver supplies to struggling colonies. They didn't stay long or ask for thanks. They came, helped, and vanished. No one knew who they were, but those who witnessed them began calling them the Ghost Fleet. The legend spread. Even if Earth had left the Council, the heart of humanity still cared. Meanwhile, the Council continued to fall apart. Meetings turned into shouting matches. Accusations flew. Some member races began to leave and form their own alliances. Others tried to claim leadership of the entire galaxy, but none succeeded. There was no longer trust, only fear. In the midst of all this, the Sol system became the safest and most stable place in the known universe. Trade vessels from neutral worlds tried to reach Earth's borders, hoping to negotiate directly, but they were met with strict protocols. The humans were polite but firm. No political requests, no alliances. Trade could happen, but only under Terran terms. And so, humanity began to stand apart like an island in the middle of a stormy sea. While the galaxy tore itself apart, Earth shone brighter than ever before. From orbit, the blue planet looked peaceful, surrounded by silver rings of defense platforms and glowing satellites. It was both a home and a fortress. Inside the Terran Science Complex, engineers worked on something that would one day change everything. A massive circular structure hidden near Neptune's orbit. Only a few knew its true purpose. Rumors said it was a new kind of jump gate, one capable of reaching galaxies far beyond known space. Humanity was no longer interested in saving the old order. They were preparing to explore new frontiers. As months turned into years, the galaxy continued to unravel. Conflicts grew, borders collapsed, and the once great council world of Viridian Prime fell into political chaos. The council had meetings less and less often until finally, they stopped altogether. The once mighty organization that had ruled the stars for centuries now stood on the edge of collapse. And through it all, Earth remained silent. They didn't send messages or threats. They didn't demand respect or acknowledgement. They simply watched. Humanity had chosen a new path, one where they would decide their destiny without waiting for approval from anyone else. The galaxy was learning a hard truth. For so long, they had looked down on humans as the emotional species, the unpredictable ones. But now they understood. The very things they mocked were what made humanity powerful. Compassion, unity, and courage had been the pillars that held the stars together. Without them, the galaxy was crumbling. Somewhere in the quiet of space, A single Terran ship drifted near the edge of known territory. Its captain looked out at the stars and whispered softly, "They'll remember us. Maybe not today, but one day they'll understand." The ship's engines ignited, and it disappeared into the black, leaving behind a universe that was slowly realizing just how much it had lost when Earth walked away. The galaxy had started to change in ways no one could have imagined. It had only been a few years since Earth had withdrawn from the Galactic Council, but the difference was clear in every corner of space. Once busy trade routes were now empty. Fleets that once carried goods and diplomats now carried weapons and soldiers. The fragile peace that humanity had helped maintain was gone. Everywhere, whispers spread that the galaxy was breaking apart. The Council, once proud and mighty, was now a shadow of what it had been. Its leaders argued daily, blaming one another for the growing instability. Meetings ended with shouting instead of decisions. The unity that had taken centuries to build was collapsing piece by piece. Without human fleets guarding the neutral zones, pirates and mercenary groups had taken control. They attacked cargo ships, kidnapped crews, and sold stolen supplies at outrageous prices. Even the large powers, who once claimed to be civilized, began fighting each other over territory. Planets that had been allies for generations were now enemies. In a distant corner of the galaxy, a battle raged between two factions that had once worked together under the human-led peace treaties. Their ships clashed in orbit, their weapons lighting up the dark void. Below them, civilians hid in underground shelters, wondering if they would ever see peace again. It was the same story across dozens of worlds. Back on Earth, humanity watched all this from afar. The Terran Federation had strict rules: no involvement, no interference. They had given the galaxy many chances, and the galaxy had failed to listen. Now humanity focused only on its own growth. Inside massive orbital stations, scientists and engineers worked tirelessly. They were building something extraordinary, new technologies that could reshape the future. Fusion reactors that powered entire cities without pollution, ships that could travel farther and faster than any known vessel. Artificial intelligence that worked alongside humans, not above them. The Sol system had become a symbol of progress, while the rest of the galaxy sank deeper into chaos. But not everyone on Earth felt content. Many humans still remembered the allies they had left behind. Some had friends on those distant worlds. They had fought side by side during wars, shared victories, and celebrated peace together. It wasn't easy to forget. Reports began reaching Earth of entire colonies collapsing. Food shortages, power failures, and diseases spreading unchecked. The Galactic Council was powerless to help, and most of its members cared only about protecting their own territories. To many humans, it was heartbreaking to watch. A few quiet operations began in secret. Small Terran ships traveling without identification started venturing beyond the Sol system. Their mission wasn't conquest or politics, they were there to help. They brought food, medicine, and clean water to dying worlds. They repaired damaged power systems, taught locals how to grow food again, and left without taking credit. Soon, people across the galaxy started whispering about mysterious angels of the void, ships that appeared in the night, saved lives and vanished without a trace. Some called them smugglers, others thought they were legends, but those who saw them up close knew the truth. They were humans. Even after leaving the Council, humanity had not lost its heart. Meanwhile, the powerful races of the Council continued their greed-driven struggles. The Zorlian warlords began conquering neighboring systems, claiming they were restoring order. The wealthy Rune cartels seized control of abandoned trade networks, turning them into private empires. The once proud galaxy had become a marketplace of chaos, ruled by whoever had the biggest guns. One by one, smaller civilizations began to fall. Without human mediation, old grudges resurfaced. Long-forgotten wars reignited. Planets that had lived in peace for generations now burned. In the council chambers, the few remaining delegates watched helplessly as their authority crumbled. Among them were those who secretly admitted the truth. They needed the humans back. But how could they ask for help after betraying the very species that had once saved them? Humanity had been mocked, manipulated, and taken advantage of. Now the galaxy was paying the price. On Earth, the leaders of the Terran Federation met in silence as reports came in from deep space. They saw the destruction, the desperation, and the countless pleas for help. But they also saw opportunity, not for power, but for growth. Humanity had always been different. When others saw chaos, they saw challenge. When others gave up, they pushed harder. And now they were determined to ensure their survival, no matter what happened beyond their borders. Within the massive rings orbiting Mars, new starships were being tested. They were unlike anything built before. Sleek, powerful, and equipped with advanced AI systems that could adapt to any environment. These ships were not designed for war, but for exploration. Humanity's dream was expanding beyond the galaxy itself. Scientists called it the Horizon Project, a mission to find new galaxies, untouched by politics and corruption. The idea was simple. If the known universe had lost its way, then humanity would start anew somewhere else. Still, not everyone agreed with this quiet withdrawal. Some young humans believed Earth should return to the galaxy, not as servants of the Council, but as leaders. They wanted to restore balance, to show that humanity's compassion could still change things. But the Federation's stance remained clear. We gave them our best. Now they must face what they created. Outside of human space, the chaos reached a breaking point. The once bustling Council capital, Viridian Prime, was now under martial law. Protests filled the streets. Civilians cried out for help, chanting for human aid even though Earth had long turned its back. Holographic screens replayed old footage of human diplomats and soldiers, the faces of those who had once kept the peace. To the people, those memories felt like a lifetime ago. And yet, deep in the night skies of Viridian Prime, something unexpected happened. A small group of human relief ships entered orbit under stealth mode. They dropped supplies into the desperate city, along with a single message burned into the ground in bright blue light. Hope is not gone. The act sparked a wave of emotion across the galaxy. People began to believe again. Even if the Council had fallen, even if war raged everywhere, there was still one race that remembered what it meant to care. But not everyone welcomed the return of the humans' shadow presence. The warlords and cartels saw it as a threat. They began spreading propaganda, claiming that the humans were manipulating the chaos to seize control. They left the galaxy to make us weak, one warlord declared. Now they returned to rule us. The accusation was false, but it worked. Fear spread. Factions began preparing for war against any human ship that dared enter their territory. The fragile line between hope and destruction grew thinner by the day. In the quiet halls of the Terran Command Center, the Human Council watched the reports in silence. They knew what was coming. The galaxy's chaos would soon reach their borders, and when that day came, humanity would need to choose remain hidden and safe, or rise again and show the stars what true unity meant. For now, they chose patience. Earth was not the same fragile world it once was. Its defenses were unmatched, its people united, its resolve unbroken. They had walked away from the galaxy not out of weakness, but because they had learned that sometimes distance is the only way to survive. Still, in every human heart, there was a quiet spark, the same spark that had once brought peace to 1,000 worlds. The galaxy could ignore them, fear them, even hate them, but deep down, everyone knew the truth. Wherever humans went, change followed. And somewhere beyond the edge of known space, the humans were already preparing for something greater, something that would once again remind the universe that humanity was never truly gone. They were only waiting for the right moment to return. Across the galaxy, chaos had become the new normal. The great alliances that once stood tall were falling apart like sand slipping through open hands. Every world was fighting for survival, and the once mighty Galactic Council had become a powerless name. Its chambers were empty, its members scattered. What used to be a symbol of order was now just a reminder of everything that had been lost. While the rest of the galaxy burned, Earth stood calm and silent behind its glowing defense grid. The humans had withdrawn completely, watching from afar but refusing to interfere. Yet the cries for help reached even them. Countless messages flooded the border stations, pleas from desperate civilizations asking humanity to return. They begged Earth to take command again, to fix the mess the Council had left behind. But humanity did not respond. The Terran Federation had made its decision long ago. No more saving those who refused to listen. The galaxy had ignored every warning, and now it was paying the price. Still, deep inside the halls of the Federation's command centers, not everyone agreed. There were humans who couldn't stand watching innocent lives suffer. They remembered the good worlds, the ones that had stood beside humanity during the dark times. Those worlds didn't deserve what was happening now. In one of the underground cities on Mars, a quiet meeting took place. Leaders, scientists, and admirals sat around a long table, watching holographic displays showing the situation beyond the Sol system. Whole sectors were collapsing. Planets that once traded freely were now locked in civil wars. Refugee ships drifted helplessly in deep space, their distress calls unanswered. "We can't stay silent forever," one of the commanders said softly. "Sooner or later, this chaos will reach our borders." Another voice, calm but firm, replied, "We warned them. We gave them every chance. They chose pride over peace. If we go back now, they'll only repeat the same mistakes." The room went silent for a long time. Everyone knew the truth. The galaxy had depended too much on humanity, and that dependence had turned into weakness. But at the same time, humanity's nature was to help. Even when betrayed, even when ignored, they couldn't completely shut off their compassion. Far from Earth, in the dark edges of human-controlled space, a secret operation had already begun. The mission was simple but dangerous: to provide aid to suffering worlds without revealing who was behind it. Human cargo ships disguised as traders began appearing in dying systems. They delivered supplies, repaired broken machines, and trained local engineers to survive on their own. The humans didn't want thanks or recognition. They just wanted life to continue even if it wasn't under their flag. But the galaxy noticed. Whispers began spreading through the stars. "The humans are returning," people said. "They haven't forgotten us." For many, that rumor became a light of hope. On countless worlds, people looked up at the night sky and prayed to see a human ship appear above their cities. At the same time, the powerful factions that had filled the void left by Earth saw these actions as a threat. The Zorlian warlords, who now ruled several former council sectors, began spreading lies. They claimed that humans were manipulating the chaos to gain control again, that Earth's aid missions were just the first step in a secret invasion. Their words caused panic. Some worlds that had once admired humanity began to fear them. Warlords gathered their fleets, preparing to defend themselves from a danger that didn't exist. The galaxy was preparing for another war, and this time it would be fought in the name of fear. Back on Earth, the Terran Federation Council received reports of these false accusations. Instead of reacting with anger, they remained calm. They knew fear was a natural response to power. "Let them talk," one council member said. "We have no interest in ruling them. We are building something greater." And that was true. While the galaxy was busy destroying itself, humanity was working on something beyond imagination. In the dark reaches near Neptune, inside a hidden station called the Erebus Complex, engineers were building a massive ring structure, an intergalactic gateway. It was the size of a small moon and powered by energy sources unknown to the rest of the galaxy. The project was humanity's greatest secret. They called it Project Dawn. Its purpose was not war or escape, it was exploration. The gate would open paths to other galaxies, new frontiers untouched by greed and politics. For humanity, it was a new beginning. They were preparing to leave the known universe behind. Still, many humans questioned the morality of turning their backs completely. "If we go," one engineer asked during a meeting, "who will save those left behind?" The answer came gently. They must learn to save themselves. Only then will they understand what unity truly means. Outside the Sol system, the situation grew worse by the day. Refugees tried to flee toward human space, seeking safety. But the Terran border patrols had strict orders: no entry without permission. The humans provided aid when possible, but they refused to open their borders fully. They had seen what happened when compassion was taken for weakness. One night, a Terran patrol ship received a distress call from a small colony under attack by raiders. The captain hesitated. The colony wasn't part of the Federation. It was under the old Council's protection, which no longer existed. The safe thing to do was to ignore it. But the captain couldn't. "Set course," he ordered. "We're going in." When the Terran ship arrived, the colony was in ruins. Fires burned across the surface, and frightened families hid underground. The raiders' ships hovered above, stripping what they could. The human vessel powered up its shields and opened communication. "Leave now," the captain's voice said across the comms. "This world is under Terran protection." The raiders laughed at first, but their laughter didn't last long. The human ship's weapons activated, not to destroy but to disable. One by one, the pirate ships went dark, their systems fried with precision shots. The Terrans landed, provided aid to the survivors, and repaired the colony's generators. When they left, the people tried to thank them, but the captain only said, "Remember this. Help each other. Don't wait for us next time." Word of that rescue spread quickly. The galaxy began to realize that humanity hadn't abandoned compassion. They had simply learned to use it wisely. They no longer tried to save everyone, but when they acted, they made sure it mattered. Soon after, more delegations began traveling toward Earth, desperate to speak with the Federation. They wanted protection, trade, and peace. For the first time in decades, alien envoys were allowed to land on human soil. But what they found surprised them. There were no grand palaces, no arrogance, no armies marching. Instead, they saw cities full of life, people working together, helping one another, and building for the future. The humans didn't look like conquerors. They looked like builders. The envoys pleaded with the Federation Council to return to the galaxy's politics, to bring back the order that once existed. But the Terran leaders declined politely. "We cannot rebuild what was already broken," they said. "The galaxy must learn to walk without leaning on us." Those words were both comforting and frightening. It meant humanity had truly moved beyond the Council's reach. They no longer saw themselves as part of a galactic community. They were something larger now. As the envoys left Earth, they looked back at the blue planet glowing beneath its defense shields. For the first time, they understood why the humans were different. Their strength didn't come from their technology or their weapons. It came from their unity, their ability to hope even in the darkest times. Across the stars, that hope began to spread again. People started to believe that maybe the galaxy wasn't completely lost. Maybe if they learned from Earth's example, there was still a chance for peace. And high above Neptune, in the silent depths of space, the great intergalactic gate began to hum with power. Lights rippled across its massive frame like waves of dawn. Humanity stood ready at the edge of the unknown, prepared to take their next great step. The galaxy might have fallen into chaos, but Earth was rising toward something far greater, a destiny that reached beyond the stars themselves. The universe had started to notice something strange. The humans who had once ruled the stars with their fearless spirit were now silent, but that silence was powerful. It wasn't the silence of fear or defeat. It was the silence of strength, of a civilization that had seen enough chaos to know when to walk away. The galaxy had mocked them when they left the Council. Many had said Earth would fall without galactic support, but now, decades later, it was the galaxy that was falling apart, and Earth that stood untouched, stronger, wiser, and more advanced than ever before. Out in the darkness, across dying systems, people whispered stories of Terran ships that appeared out of nowhere, saved lives, and vanished before anyone could even say thank you. They called them the ghosts of Sol. No one could prove if these ships really belonged to Earth, but deep down everyone knew they did. Humanity had a way of helping without asking for attention. Inside the Terran Federation's headquarters, quiet discussions were taking place. The new generation of leaders had grown up during the age of isolation. They hadn't seen the Galactic Council or the wars that had destroyed so many worlds. For them, the galaxy was a history lesson, not a living reality. Yet even they couldn't ignore the growing number of distress calls reaching the border stations. Every day, more and more ships requested asylum. Some were refugees, others traders, and some were just desperate families searching for safety. The Council debated endlessly about what to do. "If we let everyone in," one member warned, "we'll bring their chaos here." "But if we don't," another replied softly, "what makes us any different from those who turned their backs on us?" Those words carried weight. Humanity's strength had never been just its technology. It had always been its heart. After long hours of discussion, a new policy was announced. Humanity would open a few safe zones in outer space, far from Earth, where refugees could rebuild under Terran guidance. These zones wouldn't be part of the Federation, but they would be protected by it. The first safe zone was established near Proxima Centauri. It started small, just a cluster of stations connected by fragile bridges, but soon thousands of ships arrived. Humans helped set up water systems, food generators, and medical facilities. They didn't ask for loyalty, only for cooperation. The refugees were taught how to manage their own colonies, to stand on their own feet again. Slowly, the galaxy began to heal, at least in small pockets. People were learning what the humans had always known, that peace couldn't be forced. It had to be built from trust and effort. But not everyone was happy about it. The Zorlian warlords, the same ones who had spread lies about Earth, saw the new Terran safe zones as a threat. If humanity helped rebuild order, their power would fade. They couldn't allow that to happen. So they began sending spies and saboteurs into the safe zones, trying to turn people against the humans. In one of those zones, strange things started happening. Supply ships went missing, communication lines were cut, and rumors spread that the Terrans were secretly planning to enslave the colonies. Fear began to grow again. When reports reached Earth, the Terran Council didn't rush to attack. Instead, they sent a small peacekeeping fleet. Not a war fleet, but a group of ships carrying engineers, mediators, and defense officers. Their goal was simple: find the truth and restore calm. When the Terrans arrived, they found the colonies divided. Some still trusted Earth. Others had fallen under the influence of Zorlian agents. The human commander requested to meet the colony leaders in person. When she arrived, she didn't come with weapons or soldiers. She came alone, unarmed, standing before thousands of alien settlers. Her words were calm but firm. "We didn't come here to rule you. We came because we remember what it's like to be forgotten. If you want to stand with us, do it because you believe in peace, not because you fear us." The silence that followed was heavy. Then, one by one, the settlers stepped forward. They had seen the humans rebuild worlds that were left for dead. They had watched them protect people without asking for anything in return. In their hearts, they knew the truth. Humanity had changed, but its spirit hadn't died. The Zorlian agents tried to escape, but the settlers themselves turned them in. The peace was restored, and the safe zone began to flourish again. Trade routes reopened, schools were built, and a new sense of unity spread among the people. Meanwhile, on Earth, preparations for Project Dawn continued in secret. The massive intergalactic gate near Neptune had become the focus of all human effort. The energy readings coming from it were unlike anything ever recorded. Some feared it, others admired it, but everyone knew it was the next step in human destiny. Rumors spread through the colonies that the gate wasn't just a way to travel. It was a message. Humanity wasn't leaving because it hated the galaxy. It was leaving to find new beginnings, to build a future where mistakes of the past couldn't reach. But as word of the gate spread, more factions began to worry. The thought of humans leaving terrified many galactic powers. If Earth was gone, who would protect them from each other? Who would stop the endless wars? Even those who had once hated the humans started begging them to stay. Delegates from dozens of worlds traveled to Earth asking for a meeting. When they arrived, they found the planet as peaceful as ever. No golden towers, no fortresses, just a world filled with life and progress. The Terran Council greeted them with respect, but the decision had already been made. "We will not abandon this galaxy," one of the leaders told them. "But we cannot stay forever either. You must learn to live without leaning on us. We will leave you tools, knowledge, and guidance, but your future will be your own." The words brought both hope and sadness. Many realized that this was truly the end of the old order. Humanity was preparing to step beyond what anyone else had ever dreamed. As days passed, the gate near Neptune started to activate. Its massive structure glowed brighter with each cycle, sending ripples of light across the dark void. For weeks, people across the Sol system gathered to watch. Even alien envoys were invited to witness history. Then one day it happened. The space inside the gate began to twist and shimmer, opening into a tunnel of light that seemed endless. Humanity had finally done it. They had opened a path beyond their galaxy. The first Terran exploration fleet lined up before the gate, each ship gleaming with white and silver hulls marked with the symbol of Earth. The fleet wasn't just made up of humans. Many allies who had helped Earth through the dark years were given a place among them. It wasn't an exodus, it was a new journey. Before departure, a final broadcast was sent across the galaxy. The message was simple: where we go, others may follow. We will carry the lessons of this galaxy with us, the good and the bad. But know this, humanity does not forget. When you are ready for peace, we will be waiting among the stars. The ships entered the gate one by one, disappearing into the light. When the last one passed through, the portal dimmed and closed. For a moment, the galaxy felt empty, like a great chapter had ended. But in that silence, hope remained, because everyone who had watched that moment knew that humanity hadn't vanished. They had simply gone ahead, paving a path for others to follow someday. And so the galaxy continued spinning, scarred but alive, carrying the echoes of the humans who had once saved it. taught it, and finally left it behind, not out of anger, but out of faith that one day others would rise just as they did. Centuries passed, and the galaxy was no longer the same. The once mighty galactic council had faded into history. Planets that used to shine with trade and culture now lay silent or ruled by small independent powers. Many of the great empires that once boasted of their superiority had fallen, destroyed not by war, but by their own greed and distrust. Yet one mystery remained: the fate of humanity. No one had seen them since the day their ships vanished through the Great Gate near Neptune. The event had become legend, a story passed from one generation to another. Some said humans had found another galaxy, a paradise far beyond the reach of the old universe. Others believed they had perished in the void, consumed by their own ambition. But there were those who whispered a different story, that the humans had never truly left. Every few decades, strange things happened in forgotten corners of the galaxy. Fleets stranded in deep space would suddenly find themselves rescued by unknown ships. Star systems on the edge of collapse would mysteriously regain power or stability. Entire colonies facing starvation would wake up to find cargo pods filled with food, medical supplies, and handwritten notes marked only with a blue sphere symbol, the emblem of old Earth. People started calling them the Guardians of the Void. No one had ever seen their faces, but everyone knew who they were. Humanity had returned not as conquerors or rulers, but as silent protectors watching over a galaxy they once tried to save. On the planet Durion, a small colony once attacked by pirates, survivors told a story that spread like wildfire. When the invaders struck, the local defense grid failed within minutes. The people prepared for the worst, but then the sky lit up. A massive ship, larger than anything the colony had ever seen, appeared above the atmosphere. Its hull shimmered like silver glass, and its weapons didn't fire lasers or missiles, just blinding bursts of energy that disabled the enemy ships without destroying them. The pirates were captured, the colony restored, and before anyone could say a word, the mysterious vessel vanished into hyperspace. When engineers examined the battlefield later, they found fragments of metal unlike any known alloy. Engraved on one piece were faint letters in an old Terran language, for the ones who still believe. That single phrase reignited hope across the galaxy. If humans were truly out there, then maybe not all was lost. Scholars and scientists began restudying the last transmissions from Earth before it disappeared. They noticed something no one had seen before, a coded message hidden in the energy signals of the old gate. It wasn't a farewell. It was a promise. Translated, it read, "When the stars fall silent, look for our light. We will return." That line spread like fire through the galaxy. Temples were built in memory of humanity. In the ruins of the old council chambers, murals of Earth were painted again, showing the blue planet surrounded by endless stars. Even former enemies like the Zorlian clans began to speak with respect about the humans they once feared. They taught their young that strength without compassion was nothing, that true power was not in weapons but in unity. Years turned into centuries, and still, no one had made contact with the humans directly. But humanity's influence lingered everywhere. Many civilizations had adopted Terran systems of education, governance, and diplomacy. The idea of equality among species, something humans had always fought for, became a universal truth. Then one day, deep in the outer rim, an ancient signal was detected. It came from beyond the galaxy's edge, carrying a familiar frequency, the same one used by Earth's first interstellar beacons. When scientists decoded it, the entire galaxy held its breath. The message was simple. This is the Terran Federation. We are returning. Panic and excitement erupted at once. Old governments scrambled to prepare. Merchants began clearing trade routes. Even the smallest colonies lit up their skies in celebration. The return of humanity meant hope. It meant the beginning of a new age. Months later, sensors across the galaxy picked up massive energy readings. Space-time itself began to ripple near the ruins of the old gate. A vortex of light opened, brighter than anything ever seen before. Out of it emerged the first Terran fleet. They were not like the ships the galaxy remembered. These vessels were sleek, graceful, and alive with energy. Each one seemed to hum with power, surrounded by halos of blue light. They didn't come with armies or weapons drawn. They came with banners of peace and unity. As the fleet moved across the stars, their communication networks reactivated. They reached out to surviving civilizations, offering to rebuild what was lost. They shared new technologies, clean energy systems, planet healers, atmospheric stabilizers, and star core regulators that could revive dying suns. For the first time in hundreds of years, galaxies that had been dark for so long began to shine again. Leaders from different worlds were invited to a great gathering. It was held on a massive space station near the old council's border, a station built entirely by human hands. When the representatives arrived, they were welcomed by human envoys who looked peaceful but strong, humble yet confident. They spoke in calm voices about rebuilding trust and learning from the past. One of them addressed the crowd. When humanity left, we did not leave out of anger. We left because the galaxy had forgotten what it meant to stand together. We wanted to see if unity could survive without us. What we found beyond the stars was not a new home, it was a reflection of what we left behind. We realized that peace isn't found by running away, it's built by returning when the time is right. Those words struck deep. Even the oldest races, those who had seen countless wars, felt a spark of hope again. As years passed, the Terran Federation worked side by side with other species. Together they built new trade routes, new colonies, and new alliances. Humanity didn't take control this time, they guided quietly, ensuring every species had a voice. They reminded the galaxy that every civilization, no matter how small, had value. Slowly, the new era began to take shape. People no longer spoke of the old council or the chaos years. They called this new age the Second Dawn. And at its center stood the humans, not as rulers, but as guardians who had learned the hardest lessons of all: patience, compassion, and the courage to forgive. On Earth itself, life had changed too. The planet was no longer isolated. It had become a symbol, a home for all who sought peace. Visitors from thousands of worlds came to walk on its green fields, to breathe the air that had once carried the first whispers of hope. In museums and archives, humanity preserved everything, the good and the bad, so that no one would ever forget how fragile peace could be. At night, when the skies above Earth glowed with light from orbiting ships, old veterans and young explorers alike looked up, remembering the time when their species had been alone. Now the universe felt alive again, full of laughter, trade, and friendship. And somewhere in the quiet corners of the cosmos, far beyond where light could reach, Terran exploration ships continued their journey, searching not for conquest but for knowledge, for understanding, and for those who still lived in darkness. The galaxy had finally learned something that took humanity thousands of years to understand: that true strength does not come from domination, but from compassion. Humanity had left as wanderers but returned as teachers. In time, the name Earth became more than just a planet. It became a symbol of rebirth, of unity, and of hope that could never die. Whenever new worlds faced destruction or despair, they looked to the sky and repeated the same words passed down through generations. They left the stars in silence, but their light never went out. And so, under that eternal light, the universe moved forward, stronger, wiser, and forever changed by the humans who once walked away, only to return when the galaxy needed them the most.